This series by onlyzerocarbon.org presents the science of catastrophic global warming and climate change. This first section, greenhouse gases are heat radiators. This production is prompted by the persisting dangerous climate change denial. The climate denial campaign by the so-called climate change skeptics is still putting out their big lie that greenhouse gas emissions are not dangerous. At the same time, the climate change scientists are still. This production is prompted by the persistence of the dangerous climate change denial. The climate denial campaign by the so-called climate change skeptics are still putting out their big lie that greenhouse gas emissions are not dangerous. At the same time, the climate change scientists are still sticking to their absurd position that they cannot say what is dangerous. The basic science presented here proves that the emission of greenhouse gases is inherently catastrophically dangerous. We'll be using this illustration, which shows greenhouse gases in the lower atmosphere. Including water vapor, there are 6 greenhouse gases here, and in addition there is black carbon. We won't be going into the individual greenhouse gases in any detail. First, to mention water vapor, because water vapor is the top greenhouse gas. Next, the 3 main greenhouse gases in the atmosphere and main greenhouse gas emissions: carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. Every one of these atmospheric greenhouse gases is crucially important because the point is they all share the same property of heat radiation to the lower atmosphere and to the surface of the planet. We'll take a closer look at this most basic climate change science by focusing in on carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and using carbon dioxide as an example of any of the other greenhouse gases. This can represent one or any number of carbon dioxide molecules in the atmosphere, here the lower atmosphere. The surface of the planet receives energy from the sun in the form of short wavelength light energy that passes straight through the atmosphere without disturbing the greenhouse gases in any way. At the surface of the planet, the light energy becomes infrared heat energy, which is radiated from the planet's surface up through the atmosphere. When this infrared reaches a greenhouse gas molecule in the atmosphere, it energizes the greenhouse gas molecule, which then radiates heat in all directions. The lower atmosphere is warmed by the radiating heat from the greenhouse gas molecule, and that warms the planet's surface. Here is an animation of the final picture. And here with more greenhouse gases added. The more greenhouse gases are added to the atmosphere by greenhouse gas polluting emissions, the more will be the heat radiated by them in the atmosphere, and the more the heating of the surface of the planet, and that is global warming. We now go to the very basis, which is the absolute proof of the reality of global warming, by looking at the level of one molecule of greenhouse gas in the atmosphere and its atomic structure. The atomic structure of the greenhouse gas molecule determines everything about the greenhouse effect and about the reality, the absolute reality of global warming. Here is one molecule of carbon dioxide, CO2, 1 atom of carbon, 2 atoms of oxygen. It is this atomic structure which determines that a greenhouse gas in the atmosphere is an absorber of infrared heat energy, which energizes it, and thereby the greenhouse gas molecule emits infrared heat energy as long as it is in the atmosphere. Therefore, the atomic structure, the very atomic structure of the greenhouse gas molecule, also determines that the more greenhouse gases are added to the atmosphere, the more heat will be radiated within the atmosphere and to the surface of the planet, and this is global warming. Global warming, therefore, is as definite as atomic physics. This animation demonstrates how the greenhouse gas molecule, carbon dioxide, in this case by its atomic structure, is energized and emits infrared heat energy. As the carbon dioxide molecule is energized and emits, it actually vibrates with the energy. There are two additional facts of the basic greenhouse gas science that greatly increase the inherent danger of adding heat-radiating greenhouse gases to the atmosphere. Number one, greenhouse gases are atmospheric trace gases, so proving that they exert an extremely powerful heating effect. Second, the most important greenhouse gases to global warming are long-lasting and so are cumulative. The main greenhouse gases are atmospheric trace gases, exerting an extremely powerful heating effect. The three most important greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, that is excluding water vapor, are trace gases, meaning they are present in minute concentrations in the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide is measured in parts per million parts of air, methane is measured in parts per billion, and nitrous oxide also parts per billion. Now consider this: were it not for the presence of these tiny concentrations of trace atmospheric greenhouse gases, our planet would be an average of 30 degrees C colder than it is. The natural greenhouse effect warms the planet by a full 30 degrees C, making these trace gases responsible for an extremely strong heat radiating effect. This fact alone says that the constant emission of these trace greenhouse gases has to be catastrophically dangerous. Greenhouse gases that are long-lasting in the atmosphere are cumulative, so long as they are being emitted. The three most important atmospheric greenhouse gases and most important greenhouse gas emissions do not just vanish into thin air after they've been emitted. They last in the atmosphere for a long time. Carbon dioxide lasts around 100 years, methane around 10 years, and nitrous oxide around 100 years. Such long-lasting greenhouse gases must accumulate. They must continually build up in the atmosphere for so long as they are being emitted, and they most certainly are. These constant emissions of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere are constantly accumulating in the atmosphere. The intrinsic properties of the long-lasting greenhouse gas emissions to accumulate in the atmosphere and to radiate heat in the atmosphere is another sure reason why emitting them is catastrophically dangerous. The next section will be on positive, that is positively bad, feedbacks of the climate system to global warming. The first of which is the positive feedback by water vapor. Just to mention here that water vapor exerts a positive feedback because warmer air holds more water vapor. And so the warmer the atmosphere is, the more water vapor it will hold, and as water vapor is a greenhouse gas, that's a positive feedback which increases the global warming, approximately doubling the global heating effect of the greenhouse gas alone. The constant emission of these several cumulative, powerful heat-radiating greenhouse gases into the atmosphere is most certainly catastrophically dangerous. The denial of global warming and climate change is most certainly deadly to the future of humanity and life on Earth.